Jaeger-LeCoultre is a strange kind of company. Every watch enthusiast has heard of them, the watchmaker's watchmaker, yet very few could really explain what that actually means. And when the conversation turns to watches, it usually starts and ends with one name. Reverso, a legendary design, yes, but a very specific one. It was never a mainstream object of desire, and it's hard to imagine it ever could be. To me, JLC is one of those few historically significant brands that somehow didn't manage to benefit from the watch boom of recent years. Not because they didn't try, but because they didn't have that one watch that could truly capture a wider audience. The Reverso is an icon, but it's also a niche. Everything else in their catalog often feels a bit invisible, so JLC became a brand for connoisseurs, though not just any connoisseurs. For those who care about the brand itself, its heritage and its history. The rest of the watch world mostly just admired it from afar. Yet despite that, JLC has always had something few others could offer. Unique in-house complications that became instantly recognizable no matter how plain the watch carrying them might look. That's what truly justified the watchmaker's watchmaker nickname. When your mechanisms are more famous than your watches. One of those signature complications is the Memovox, the mechanical alarm, but to me, the most quintessentially Jaeger one is the Geographic. And the watch I've been wearing lately is the limited edition Polaris Geographic World Time, a piece that brings that complication to its fullest potential. So how does it all work? At first glance, the dial looks complex, but it's actually brilliantly functional once you get used to it. The three central hands show your local time. Between 2 and 3 o'clock there's a date subdial, opposite it a power reserve indicator, something people love to hate, but I actually enjoy both visually and practically. Down at 6 o'clock sits the subdial for the second time zone, which you control via the crown at 10. You rotate the city ring, align your chosen city with the red arrow and voila. The subdial instantly displays that city's time. Sydney, Tokyo, Hong Kong, just pick one and the watch does the math for you, entirely mechanically, with gears and wheels quietly working underneath. Around the outer ring you can see whether it's day or night in each location. And if you take a moment to look closer, you can even read the time for all other cities simultaneously, just like a traditional world timer. It takes a little practice, but once you get the hang of it, it's a very satisfying system to use. This to me is the essence of traditional watchmaking, solving real-world problems mechanically without software or sensors. It's what makes the geographic complication so charming. Technically, it's a color GMT, also known as an office GMT, designed to let you track time in other zones while staying in one place. That's different from a true GMT, which tracks your home time while you travel. The latter is often seen as better, mostly because Rolex made it famous with the GMT Master 2, not because it's more useful. For most people, the color GMT actually makes more sense. It's the kind of complication you can enjoy and use without ever leaving your desk. The watch itself comes in the modern Polaris case, 42 mm across, just 11 mm thick. That's impressive, given how much is happening inside. It's even thinner than some simpler versions of the Polaris. The lugs are short and curved, so the watch wears far more compact than the numbers suggest. It uses curved spring bars to fit properly, and the lug-to-lug is tight enough to sit comfortably even on smaller wrist. Mine is 16.5 centimeters, and it feels great. The strap width is 21 mm, mildly annoying, but the included integrated rubber strap is excellent. It looks and feels premium, sporty but refined, and balances the watch perfectly. Despite all the information packed on the dial, readability is excellent. The large polished hands catch light from every angle, standing out clearly against the matte surface. At night, the lume does its job well. Not a torch, but perfectly readable in the dark or at dawn. And when you look closely, the finishing lives up to what you expect from this price segment. Every element is crisply executed. Under a loupe, there's plenty to admire. Flip the watch over and things remain pleasant. JLC movements are always good to look at, clean, classic, and distinctly mechanical. But under magnification, you realize they're not quite at the same level as the highest tier of high horology, and that's fine, as long as you're aware of it. In terms of decoration and finishing, JLC sits somewhere between the heavyweights of high watchmaking, Patek, Vacheron, Breguet, and the more mainstream luxury names like Rolex, Omega, Cartier, or IWC. It's a middle ground that very few brands occupy. If I had to name others that live in the same zone of quality and price, I'd mention Chopard, Blancpain, Glashütte Original, Girard-Perregaux, Piaget, and Bulgari's Octo Finissimo line. It's a small club, and JLC is arguably the biggest of them. That's a strength, but maybe also part of their problem, because I sometimes wonder if this in-between position isn't exactly why JLC struggles to stand out. People tend to buy watches in tiers, up to Rolex and Omega on one side, and then straight into the world of high horology on the other. That middle step, where JLC sits, often gets skipped. Maybe that's why they never had the queues outside boutiques, even during the watch market frenzy. Back to the movement. Its main weakness is the power reserve, just 38 hours. In later models, JLC upgraded that to around 70 hours, which feels more modern. Still, the winding efficiency is excellent. A few turns of the crown and you're fully wound. Personally, I don't really care about power reserve anymore. I wear my watches in rotation for several days at a time. So whether it's 40 hours or 100 doesn't matter. That's something I've learned over the years. Specs only matter if they matter to you. The case itself is well made but not spectacular. There's one detail that bothers me. The polished bevel on the lugs feels imprecise, lacking the sharp definition I'd expect at this level. The rest is simply good, not extraordinary. Water resistance is 100 meters, verified by JLC's 1000-hour control test. Accuracy, when fully wound, is chronometer-like, and thanks to that efficient winding system, it stays fully wound most of the time you wear it. This was my first Polaris, and to my surprise, not the last one. But I never truly connected with the line, and after spending time with this one and the next one, the Green Diver, I don't think that's going to change. Somewhere along the way, I may have stopped being a fan of the brand altogether. Before the pandemic, JLC felt like the rational choice. It was the brand for enthusiasts who cared about heritage and craftsmanship, but didn't want to pay the inflated brand tax of names like Patek Philippe. It offered more sophistication than Rolex or Omega at prices that still felt grounded in reality. But when the watch market exploded, JLC somehow stood still. They didn't have a breakout model, nothing that stirred excitement or made collectors queue outside boutiques. And perhaps in response to that missed momentum, they went the other way, raising prices faster than almost anyone else in the industry. The result is a brand that lost the one thing that made it special: balance. They used to be the smart, understated choice, refined but attainable. Now, the prices are approaching haute horlogerie levels, while the product remains anchored in precise mechanical craftsmanship, rather than true artisanal finishing. It's not a criticism, just an observation. The equation no longer adds up the way it once did. So where does that leave Jaeger-LeCoultre today? A few years ago, it was the brand for the thoughtful enthusiast, someone who valued substance over hype. Now, it feels like a company caught between worlds, still searching for what it wants to be in the modern watch landscape. And maybe that's not entirely a bad thing, because if any brand deserves the time to rediscover itself, it's the watchmaker's watchmaker. The one that once reminded everyone why mechanical watches were worth caring about in the first place.